Hey, if you're an Iron Maiden fan, I think you're really going to have fun with this video. Back in 1984, Iron Maiden put out an album called Powerslave that I think at the time kind of threw a few people off that were Iron Maiden fans, what came out. Here's my copy of it. This is it right here. This, in my opinion, forget the music for a second. This is one of the things that made listening to records awesome. It was the artwork. Because I remember when I bought this album, I can't tell how much time I spent staring at this and finding all the little weird things were written all over this pyramid, it was just fun. And you could buy an album like this, take it home, put it on your turntable, and then while you're listening to the music, there's this whole other experience that's happening. Of course, Iron Maiden, you had the first album that had just Eddie on the front of it. And it was kind of dark and kind of, this monster, the corpse. And then Killers comes out and it's so menacing, and Eddie's even a little more menacing, and his hair and the hands grabbing. And then Number of the Beast, and it's even more. You've got Eddie and the flames, and there's the devil, and the whole thing, and it's just getting darker and darker. And then you go into Peace of Mind, and then there's Eddie in a straitjacket, and he's got his brains been removed apparently, and it's so dark, and the whole thing, and and then this, all of a sudden, we're in a clear sky, blue sky, and I remember when I saw it, it threw me off because I was expecting not this. I was expecting to continue down that dark path. I had gotten into Iron Maiden not long before this. I've talked about it on this channel before, but I'd seen Run to the Hills, and I went and bought Number of the Beast, and then Peace of Mind came out, and that came out. I bought it, and I loved that album, and I was so looking forward to this coming out. And then I got it, and it just threw me. I didn't know what to make of it because it felt... it was so different, just the presentation, the visuals. Then luckily you put it on and you hear Aces High, which is just awesome. Just such a great tune. And then 2 Minutes to Midnight, which has this kind of guitar hook, which I wasn't really used to with Iron Maiden. It sounded a little more, dare I say, poppy, I guess, but I liked it. And then the album ended up being really good. And then you flipped it over to the other side. Back in the Village, I loved. The song Powerslave, I loved. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner was a little long, but then it exposes you to this old poem that existed whenever it was written 100, 200 years ago, something like that. Anyway, so what I've got in this video today that I think you're going to like is I was just thinking about this record. We'd done there's other Iron Maiden videos on this channel if you like Iron Maiden. So there's a couple more to go watch, But I was thinking about this for some reason, and I thought, I want to go back and find some record reviews for this album when it first came out to see what people were saying at the time. And so what I've got here is, they're very, very short, as a lot of record reviews are, but I've got 4 of them I'm going to read to you, and they're very short. And I think if you're an Iron Maiden fan, and especially if you remember this period, this album, I think you'll find these really interesting, what these critics had to say about this album when it came out. So anyway, let's jump into this. And so this first one it's actually from the Los Angeles Times. This is October 7th, 1984. And for those of you that are watching rather than just listening, you can see the band right there. Of course, anyway, you can see the 5 guys right there. And it says underneath the picture, it says Iron Maiden's Powerslave features guitarists, not Satanism. And actually, it's interesting that the reviewer even noticed that this is kind of a change from what they'd been doing. So, all right, so here we go. The record rack. Iron Maiden keeps its heavy metal supple. Powerslave, Iron Maiden, capital. Heavy metal is so chained down by its own cliches that many people treat it as a joke. Fair enough, perhaps, but some tell the joke a lot better than others, and none does it better these days than Iron Maiden. Powerslave, expertly produced by Martin Birch, is the group's most impressive work yet. And by the way, for those of you that don't know this, I'd imagine most Iron Maiden fans do, but Martin Birch, he'd been with them since Killers. I think just kept producing all their albums up until the 90s, I think. He worked with them for a long, long time. But Martin Birch is a really, really well-known producer. I mean, he produced all the great stuff from Deep Purple. He'd worked with the early Fleetwood Mac. He did Black Sabbath stuff with Dio, Heaven and Hell, and Mob Rules. And he'd worked with Rainbow. Anyway, he was a very successful producer for this style of music. And so he was responsible for so much of the Iron Maiden stuff, if you like Iron Maiden, that you love. Let's see here. Most impressive work yet. One that, like last year's Peace of Mind, moves away from the occasional satanic references of the Number of the Beast. Period. From the Number of the Beast, period, and spotlights Maiden's dynamic duo of guitarists, Dave Murray and Adrian Smith. Get a dual guitar sound that evokes Southern rock. And I'd never thought of it that way, but it does harken back to some of that same kind of thing that Southern rock would do with their dual guitars. Okay, continuing with the article. And they race along to typical metal standards with the surest, fastest steps imaginable. Steve Harris' nimble bass is almost as strong a factor. Those three go through some heart-quickening stunts. It's a lot harder to get exhausted about I read that word wrong. It's very important I get that word right. It's a lot harder to get enthused about the singing of Bruce Dickinson. He's right up there with the best of the air raid siren metal singers, along with Ronnie Dio and Ian Gillan, but his style is as anonymous as it is dependable. That is such an interesting statement to hear, because Bruce Dickinson, I love his voice, and I actually think he's extremely kind of unique. And then he kind of sees it as, this is just generic, metal voice, whatever. Okay, anyway, the predictable warrior fantasies in Iron Maiden's lyrics are often more than just statements of bravado. The heroes are usually people who've been forced to fight by the threat of winding up like the character in the title song, a slave to the power of death. The album is best when Dickinson shuts up, as he does for one whole instrumental, Lost for Words, Big Aura, which is there on the first side of the album, which even non-metal fans might enjoy. There's also an incredibly acrobatic section toward the end of the 14-minute epic Rime of the Ancient Mariner, when you see that Iron Maiden stays true to the spirit of that poem and gives Coleridge credit whenever he's quoted on the lyric sheet. You know you're dealing with a class act of an often no-class genre. Okay, that's the first one. All right, so here's the next one, Iron Maiden Powerslave. Iron Maiden's Powerslave is the latest breakthrough in mind-stimulating metal, a masterpiece in musical storytelling from any level, metal or not. To absorb what's written on the lyric sleeve while this disc spirals on the turntable induces some incredible visions into the catacombs of Egypt, as well as the watery fathoms of Samuel Taylor Coleridge's imagination. Now, he even says it here. Indeed, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, the album's tailpiece and high point, is a lengthy epic narrating that classic Coleridge poem and breathing new life into its salt-drenched audio pores to create a new dimension that should surely please high school lit teachers across the nation. It is kind of funny. I mean, when you think about some of these metal bands, I mean, and even Rush, you'd go, who's Ayn Rand? You get 2112 and then all of a sudden you're interested in literature. And it's same thing with this. It's Coleridge, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. You didn't know there was even a poem. Next thing you know, you're back studying, well, what was this? Talking to your literature and English teachers about it. Anyway, kind of interesting. Let's see here. To surely please high school lit teachers. Now, instead of raising their rebellious fists in the air in sync with School's Out and other hooky-inducing material, fans are getting an education in a way much more exciting than a blackboard lecture or a midterm pop quiz. In addition to their striking ability to expand on the masterworks of the past, the Maidens have added their say concerning the present state of worldly affairs in their cynically fatalist 2 Minutes to Midnight. Man, I still, sometimes that song just pops in, 2 minutes to midnight. I mean, it was really catchy. That thing every once in a while just pops into my head. A tale of doom and despair that could well pass for a Black Sabbath outing, if not for its adrenaline-moving energy and melodic excellence. As the madmen play on words and make us dance to their song, to the tune of starving millions to make a better kind of gun, sums up the tortured tone of vocalist Bruce Dickinson's lyrics, which are brilliant throughout. However, Powerslave is very much a band project, and bassist Steve Harris gets the best song nod with his Mariner epic. Other areas of musical turf covered on Powerslave include Egypt and its empirical rulers whose attempts to immortalize themselves are documented in another colorful Dickinson composition, the title track. But wait, there's also the duo of fencing numbers, Flash of the Blade and The Duelists, the high-powered opener Ace is High, and more, all interwoven into a highly charged package that constitutes Iron Maiden's best work and the metal album of the year so far. To sum it up, Powerslave is, in the words of a scholarly middle-aged music lover I recently played it for, grown-up bleep. Family-friendly channel here, so I'm not going to, but you can see it on the screen if you want, grown-up. However, the anti-intellectual syndrome is still apparent. Several bands out there have only gone so far as to cop that old rock and roll standby social defiance as their sole theme. Quiet Riot, Rat, Motley Crue, and all their buddies have taken audio nonconformity to a platinum plateau. So it's easy to see why they're afraid to change. Yet, with bands like Iron Maiden and Metallica creatively combining metal fury with metal smarts, some fascinating developments are bound to emerge from the world of high volumes and chronic neck aches. That's so great. Okay, these last two are pretty short, but I think hopefully you like this stuff. By the way, and if you've heard anything so far that you relate to, especially from this album, put it in the comments. Love to hear about it. Okay, so this one is from the Ottawa Citizen, November 30th, 1984, page 53. Iron Maiden was one of the British bands that started the current heavy metal boom. It continues to take its trailblazing role seriously. Iron Maiden realizes that its music would come to a dead end if it took the simplistic riff-slugging approach, so the band has left itself room to maneuver. Iron Maiden is far from a pack of drooling metal dummies. The band prides itself in having sophistication on both the musical and literary level. Powerslave keeps one foot in progressive rock. It is riddled with imagery from Egyptian mythology and contains a rock opus that clocks in at 13 minutes and 45 seconds called Rime of the Ancient Mariner, based on the work by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. The song offers no insight into the literary classic, but it succeeds as an adventure spun out in gruesome detail with its moral more or less intact. Iron Maiden maintains its heavy metal adrenaline flow. It is not dragged down by the band's progressive rock flourishes. In fact, those augment the colossal effect it seeks to achieve. If power and domination constitute the gut thrill of heavy metal, it is not overlooked with Powerslave. These cornerstones anchor everything from the grisly imagery to the bombastic thrust of its arrangements. This has a disconcerting effect on Iron Maiden's commentary on world peace, a predominant theme of Powerslave. These, which include 2 Minutes to Midnight, a reference to the Doomsday Clock, draw a fine line between anti-war songs and bloodthirsty militarism. By the way, that was also something. I'd never heard the term 2 Minutes to Midnight. I had no idea what that meant. And I remember the song and hearing it and loving it and then thinking, wait, and then kind of asking around, what is this all about? And then starting to see that it was what it was actually referencing. War is depicted in hideous terms that register high on shock value. Nonetheless, Powerslave does everything that heavy metal should do, plus more. It has the makings of a pivotal album of the genre. Okay, last one. And this person did not like the album. So we had three that were actually pretty good, except one of them didn't like Bruce's voice very much, but still in general liked the album. But then this person doesn't. And by the way, again, if you relate to any of this stuff, if you remember these songs, what was your favorite, please put that in the comments. Okay, so here's the last one. This is from the Star Phoenix, November 1st, 1984. Records review, Powerslave lacks quality. Since its inception 4 years ago, that's pretty, by the way, again, pretty interesting thinking about that. That inside of those 4 years, they put out so much great stuff. Killers, Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, and now here, Powerslave. Okay. 4 years, Iron Maiden is catapulted to the top of the heavy metal heap on the strength of 4 albums, and the band earned platinum discs from 15 different countries. The recent release of Powerslave will surely add to the band's offers. Powerslave is a 51-minute heavy metal attack sure to please headbangers. Backed by the twin guitar attack of Dave Murray and Adrian Smith, the five-piece band belts out rock at its heaviest. And the band has taken a step back into the dark ages of metal with its 13-minute rendition of A Rime of the Ancient Mariner, based loosely on the poem by 19th century poet Samuel Coleridge. However, what the band makes up for in quantity, it loses in quality. A prime example is Lost for Words, a 4-minute instrumental which could have easily been dropped from the album. Although the guitars are loud and at the forefront, the riffs are recycled in various forms. Vocalist Bruce Dickinson can truly lay claim to having one of the most obnoxious voices on vinyl, a prerequisite for any metal act. Powerslave is sure to please old fans of Iron Maiden, but in the cutthroat world of heavy metal, newer fans will likely pass this by in favor of louder and uglier rock. Okay, so there's the 4. And again, what did you think of those? And do you relate to any of that stuff? For you, did you have the same reaction that I did? You had this kind of this dark stuff that they'd been doing, and this very, very sinister, all the album covers, and it felt, and then this, which kind of felt weirdly fun. When I looked at this album cover, it was so much fun to look at, and it was light, and the blue sky. I mean, that alone just got me. So anyway, but I still really, really loved it. So anyway, I'd love to get your feedback if you had that same experience that I did. Of course, please, before you go, follow the channel, like the video. And if you're an Iron Maiden fan, I'm certain that you know other people that love Iron Maiden. So I encourage you to share this with them, and so they can enjoy this kind of reminiscing over this great stuff too. And of course, with that, have yourself a fantastic day.